Hello, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio, where we love to discuss e-commerce successful strategies for building the business of your dreams. And today we're going to be talking through a very realistic lens with one of the great coaches on our team who has coached at this point over the last few years over 100 students. If you weren't aware, we have a team of well over 50, about 60 coaches at any given time around here, and they all have a couple things in common. One is they've built a beautifully successful business using the strategies we teach here. And two is they've got a teacher's heart. They just can't help but help others when they have e-commerce questions. That's who our coaches are. As a little side note, if you want to have a conversation with us and see which of our free or low cost or maybe even coaching programs make the most sense for you, get on our schedule. Go to silentjim.com/book a call, all one word, book a call. There's also a text number there as well. You can reach out to us anytime by text. Let's have a conversation. Completely free consultation to help you get from where you are now to where you could and should be with your e-commerce business, talking about some of the specific trainings we have. But as you may know, if you've been around a while, or maybe you're new, so I should explain, this is a podcast committed to creative e-commerce solutions. We love Amazon because Amazon is where approximately half of all economic activity online in the United States happens every day. If you add up the second, third, fourth, and fifth place seller opportunities and platforms online, they don't add up to what Amazon does every day. Amazon is dominant. That's where all the eyeballs are. That's where all the shoppers are. That's why we start new sellers in our community out with what we consider to be the greatest business opportunity in the world for those who want a flexible schedule, those who want to work from home, build a team, have a dream business. Now, we've been doing that for a long time. We've coached almost 10,000 people over 20 years. We'd love to help you get where you're going. Today, we talked with one of our great coaches. You'll meet him in just a moment. He's been on our show before. We'll stick some links in the show notes so you can see his past appearances. But we're talking very realistically about what's it like right now. What is the Amazon opportunity like right now? What has changed in the past, say, year, 2 years? How are things different? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? What's beautiful about the business? What things have become more challenging? And it's good to talk to Grant today because not only does he have a business that does about $100,000 or so per month, it's been a while since he had less than that in sales, very profitable. It's his family's only income, his Amazon streams of income that he describes today. But he's also a great coach on our team, and he's got a great perspective working with many, many students recently. So his insights and perspectives are very valuable. A couple of things you're going to hear him talk about that have changed. It takes a little more time for Amazon to trust you now than it used to. When you're a new seller, Amazon is being more cautious about who it is that they'll trust with full wide open opportunity. How do you navigate those first few steps to get Amazon to trust you as quickly as possible, to build a beautiful business as quickly as possible? What's it like to go full time? What's the reality of eventually going full time? He talks about that a little bit today, as well as some other really good, transparent insights into the realities of being an Amazon seller. We're seeing a lot of really positive signs right now. We know that some sellers are reporting incredible success. We also know other sellers are saying, hey, Amazon was a little weird, but now they've let me back in and everything is good. I had them asking me some hard questions. I went through the process. Now I'm back on good standing. We're seeing a lot of really good developments right now. So if you're reading some challenging news about being an Amazon seller, hey, you should know that there's still thousands of us out there doing really, really well, tens of thousands. And Amazon needs a whole bunch of us because, again, the vast majority of people who spend money online in the United States are spending it on Amazon, and it continues to grow and dominate with a very bright future. I mentioned this later in the episode today as well, that right now, if you didn't know, I mention this quite frequently, only about 20% of all retail activity in the United States is online. The other 80% of all retail activity in the US is in the traditional brick and mortar, get in your car, go to the store. Reality of the opportunity is it's getting bigger. That's what I'm trying to say. And Amazon is getting bigger. So it's worth it to go through the hassle, to learn the basics, to get going, and you'll have a beautiful, valuable asset, which is an Amazon seller account. So many of us enjoy and benefit from that every day. In a community of people doing that every day. But we love Walmart too. We love eBay. We love Facebook Marketplace. We love diversifying our income streams. And we talk about that a little bit today with Grant as well. So that's a good intro. Let's get over and have a chat with Grant Douglas, one of the great coaches on our team. If you want to talk to us about this, I told you how. Go to silentjimdotcom/book a call. Let's have a conversation. Jump on the phone. We'd love to leave you better than we found you and give you some great insights. If you've never called us before, we'd love to meet you. All right, let's get Grant over right now. Let's go. So Grant, welcome back. Good to see you again, man.
Hey, good to be here again.
I'm really looking forward to hearing what's up. As I said in the announcements or in the introduction, you've coached about 100 people now, more than that with us, which is incredible. I love it. So you're one of our premier coaches around here doing a great job. What kind of things are you seeing? What are you learning? And let's dive into whatever's on your mind today.
Yeah, so I started coaching 2 years ago. I've been selling on Amazon. It'll be 4 years in January. And so I'm still relatively new compared to a lot of the other coaches. But I mean, I jumped straight into coaching. I used to, back in the day, I worked at Texas Roadhouse and I was a regional trainer and loved just, seeing that new person come in, wide-eyed, not knowing what to do. And it was really important for me to make sure that, if they were to like the job, that they got every opportunity necessary to succeed and to enjoy it, as opposed to, especially like if you're working as a server and there's ways that you're just running around like crazy and yeah, and it can be a hard time. There's a lot of fellow restaurant servers that we joke that like I just now stopped getting nightmares of serving, where I was put in a restaurant with 20 tables and it's literally the worst dream I've ever had.
I've always said, Grant, and I learned this a long time ago. I don't know who first said it, but it resonated with me that some of the best people you can ever hire and work with are people who have been in that fast-paced retail or servers in a busy environment. Like those people just know how to prioritize, get things done, keep people happy, juggle 15 things at the same time. Same thing like a fast food. You show me someone who excelled in
Yep.
a fast food environment with a good attitude and kind of rose in the ranks. Those are some good people to have on your team, because there's no such thing as being lazy and unattended to details and thriving. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd forgotten that a part of your story, that you came from that environment. It's no wonder that you do so well, because once you grab something, you run with it, man.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fast food too, because I did that. I did Dairy Queen before. I did, the sit down restaurant, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of executive function you have to use, being able to prioritize this, then this, then this. We would used to get, if we could get 60 cars in an hour through the drive-through, we each got a free meal.
Yeah.
And so it was like, identifying the bottleneck, the thing that's slowing you down the most, and
Yeah.
all of those things. It's amazing that my time at Dairy Queen probably prepared me more for my Amazon selling career than my degree in business
Oh,
management.
no doubt. No doubt. I would say the same thing. My time, I worked, for me, it was Hardee's in high school. And my kids say I was SpongeBob in high school, because I really was, like, I was the guy that could just control the back line. I was never out front. I was always in the back. But one of my favorite
Yeah,
stories, Grant, was, since we're talking fast food stories, and we'll get into the rest of it, but the regional manager showed up one time. He owned, he was in charge of like 10, 15 stores or whatever on a busy Friday, like at 6:30 p.m., right? Like peak crazy. And I'm
yeah,
back there with my most trusted right hand, a couple folks, three of us doing the job of five kind of thing, right? And he comes back to help, and he's trying to help, but he's new to that. He does. You can tell he doesn't do it very often. But he's my
yeah.
boss's boss's boss kind of thing. I'm like, what do you do? So I politely said, "Sir, I really appreciate your effort, and I know that you outrank me here, but I think things would go a lot smoother if you'd go out front and deal with the customers versus being back here in our way." And he looked
Yep.
at me sideways for a second, and like, "I think you're probably right." And he went out. It was great. It was a big achievement for me as a 16-year-old. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've got those stories, man. You learn leadership and managing people, and all that stuff goes into building a business.
Yeah. And so even tying that back into, my coaching students, there's a lot of traits and a lot of qualities that you see repeatedly that are people that do succeed, because someone that opens up, their own business, that's what this is. You are
Yes.
everything. You are the accountant, you are the human resource department, you are the boss, you are the person that has to sweep the floors and pick up the stuff when no one else is there. You're everything. And man, having some of that real world experience really does help
Yeah,
with that. So
I completely agree. Yeah, maybe we should start asking that when we're qualifying students. Like, hey, have you ever worked really hard in your life before?
yeah,
And if they say a fast food or a retail environment, if so, yeah, you got a lot of the skills. If not, hey, welcome to the real world. Business is work, right?
yeah. So I want to get into the nitty gritty. Like I want to get into ideally just if you are a brand new student, whether you're a student that's on my coaching team or whether you're just brand new to Amazon, like kind of what would the game plan be? Like what should you focus on? What are some of the important things that you don't want to miss? And I know
Yeah.
a lot of that is highlighted in like you have a Facebook post. It's like most common mistakes. Like maybe before you even hear what I hear, go there
There's a shortcut
and
link to that post, by the way, Grant. It's just silentjimdotcom/mistakes. Such a popular
yeah,
post. And I think there's like 15, 18 things that we see people do. By default, you're going to make a handful of these mistakes if you don't get great training going into Amazon. Yeah, so it's a very
yeah.
useful post. I'm glad you mentioned it.
So if you're new, pause, go to that, read
Yeah.
that, and then come back here. And
Yeah.
then here is like I would say the roadmap to getting to a point where if you want to scale your business to full time, you can. That's what I'm hoping by the end of this podcast, people will just have kind of a general understanding of what's a way that they could do that and kind of what that looks like, what challenges they'll have, all of that. But I do want to start off, even though I'm gonna talk about the negative. I do want to start off with just the positives that I'm still seeing with selling on Amazon. I mean, this is and I would just say e-commerce in general, right? You could do
Sure.
all these things are true if you sell on just Walmart Marketplace or if you're helping other brands and you're owning a prep center. Like these are all the things that still apply. And so number one, like the thing that's the biggest for me and my family is just the flexibility of that. We have no income that comes in our family except through e-commerce right now. That includes, our Amazon business. That includes my coaching income. That includes selling on Walmart, selling on eBay, and Amazon influencer. That's where most of that basket comes from. But with that, we can at any time, especially because we do homeschool our kids, we can at any time choose our schedule of how we want. We can go on vacation if we want to, if the money's there for that. We can work hard a week and say, hey, we're going to work double hard this week because next week we want it to be easy because there's all these birthdays and birthday parties and whatever that may be. And we can even, make some changes to our schedule. Like we used to do a homeschool co-op where 2 days a week we were going to someone else who was helping us, homeschool our kids. And we recently decided, hey, look, I don't think this is working out for us. And then so we're going back to, for now, doing just 4 or 5 days a week at our house. And I've had to change my schedule and we've rewritten everything. And guess what? It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too hard. It was very, very doable because I don't have to ask someone for permission to take off
Right.
to do that. So,
Yeah.
so if you're self-employed, I mean, that is a huge benefit of why, even with the added risk that it certainly exists selling on Amazon now, that's why it's still worth striving towards it. I say the other one is kind of ties into what I said first, but like it's very easy to have multiple streams of income. There's
Yeah.
so many natural things that go along. I would say that, and so my wife and I didn't do this, but in hindsight, we should have. So if I started my Amazon business from scratch and I was able to get approved for the Amazon influencer program, which there is a course to do that is pretty cheap and I think will be in packed here soon as well.
Correct.
But that what I would do is every single item that I would sell, I would also do a video review for within the program. And then for me, I have sold lifetime 4,000 ASINs. I think I've deleted a few that I've sold and haven't gotten back. But like if you add them all together, like about 4,000 different ASINs. And if I had video reviews of 4,000 products of what I've sold, I am almost certain that I would get full-time income with Amazon Influencer. And once you record the video, it's there forever.
Right.
And the passive income comes forever. Like you want to talk about true passive income, like that's where it really exists. And so that's just like we do. Oh, I do record my best sellers and the higher priced ones, but man, like how easy is that to add that to grow a Walmart business when you already have a list of profitable things on Amazon to just stick your best sellers on a shelf and cross list them on Walmart and eBay. So even though there's risk, right? Like we've talked a lot about, you'll see a lot of talk about account deactivations and bundle suspensions and these things the past few months. Yes, that is so true. But oh my goodness, if my Amazon account was suspended overnight, I could make more than full-time income on all the other things I listed too immediately as I needed to until I got my account reinstated.
Yeah. And let me just speak to that for a moment before we go on with this, because, that's been the philosophy around here for 20 years. I realized very quickly, I mean, it was 20 years ago that I came to the realization that if I'm going to go full time and step away from corporate career, I mean, I was employed by Microsoft. It's a steady paycheck. It's a good company, benefits and all that. I was going to step away from that into this arena where I'm one of tens of thousands of people using different platforms. And at any given time, I could wake up and have violated a rule or have a restriction or something. Like the way I figured out, the only stable way to do this is to eventually make sure I had multiple streams of income where I'm not just relying on any one thing, but I'm bolting down systems that work, putting good people in place, and then expanding my network. But as I've been in this arena of multiple income streams for a long time, one of the biggest lessons, and I'm not going to branch off on this too hard, but you've alluded to it. One of the biggest lessons I learned is you can't try to diversify all at once. You've got to focus in and build a reliable
Mhm.
system and put something in place that and make it stable, and then branch off of that using relationships and education and other platforms and create your network of income that way,
Yeah.
which is what you've done. But you got to start somewhere. And the reason
Mhm.
we both still love Amazon as the starting point is because, from my vantage point, clearly it's the lowest hanging fruit, lowest barrier to entry, best odds of building a successful business. Do you want to stay just there with just one strategy as your only income for the next 10 years? Probably not a good plan, right? As we've seen. But as a great foundational place, absolutely, that's what you launch from, because it gets you into so many other opportunities so quickly, many of which you've already alluded to. But
Yeah.
yeah, just wanted to throw in, like, I completely agree, two thumbs up with what you're saying.
Yeah. So two more things I wanted to say before we get into, I'll talk about some negatives, but the
Sure.
cash back and the rewards that go along with like kind of the natural things, like we could almost say that's an entire stream of income, but it's some will prefer the cash back. Some do the perks of rewards and bonus miles and free trips. And
Right.
just to put in perspective, because I know others that sell full time even utilize this way more than me. I typically just take the cash back, but my wife and I have a 10-year anniversary coming up next year. And so we are holding some of those cashback rewards because we're going to use them to fly somewhere. But so I sell $100,000 a month every single month on Amazon. I've hit that and more every month this year. Super proud of that. It's the first year I've been that steady. I usually hit that, but this year it's been every month. But
Nice.
just a perspective, like what comes into that, that means at a minimum, every month to maintain that, I have to spend $40,000 to $50,000 on products.
Mhm.
That's what it is. And if you are taking advantage of every opportunity, which means you're using credit cards that give you 2% cash back or more, ideally, at least 1.5% and more is pretty easy to find, or the places that give you those huge bonuses for buying grocery, and maybe you love shopping at Walmart and you get these huge perks for flights later. But by doing that naturally, I could get 3 to 4 thousand in cash back a month on top of whatever profit I make,
Right.
just by spending what I have to spend.
Yep.
And that could turn into like $5,000 to $7,000 worth of flights if you want to use those towards hotels or flights and other reward partners. And I'm just recently starting to tap into that because I've done the simple route of sure, just put that check into my account. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there are some people that I mean will fly to another country and pay less than $1,000 for that whole thing, and that's done just by running a business.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I interviewed
um,
Doyle. He's a podcast episode, probably come out a few days before yours. It's not out as we're recording this today, Grant, but by the time people hear this interview between you and I, it will be out. And yeah, he's got millions of points. I mean, he flies his team and himself, like he never pays for airfare, hotel, anywhere. And
Mhm.
his business is larger than yours. He's been doing it a little longer than you have, but
Mhm.
the points are a significant part of his overall strategy because he buys all his inventory on points. He puts everything on a credit card. And yeah, that's 2% or so of everything he's spending adds up to a
Yeah.
lot of either cash or travel. He does mostly travel with his. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
There are people that I wouldn't necessarily advise this. It's good to make money before cash back because that's not guaranteed. But there are people that have basically made their whole business on selling slightly above break even.
Mm-hmm.
And so a place we could talk about is Clinique because we can't sell that anymore. Clinique cash back was 15 to 20%
Right.
in peak season. And what they would do is buy all of those and make a few bucks, right? Still make money because on the sales, but we're talking they would get 5 to 10 grand cash back in 1 month just by buying all the things that Rakuten is giving these 20% cash back promotions on.
Right.
And it's so I'm not saying to do that, but I'm saying at the very least, if you're already making money, there's so many benefits to add to that, and it'd be silly for us not to take advantage of that.
Agreed.
Yeah. And the last thing, I wanted to say of like, why would I want to do this as opposed to a different job, a safer job where I'm guaranteed a check? I'd say first, no job is safe. We learned that in 2020. A lot of jobs like the restaurant industry that I used to work at, a lot of my friends got laid off because restaurants couldn't open, and so no job is fully safe. And I've chosen kind of to bet on myself and that I can work things out if things get negative, as opposed to relying on my business, my company that I work for, working things out on my behalf. But it's that I get to work with people I love.
Yeah.
I have not had anybody help me other than family and very close friends, and it counts as work when I take my laptop here while my family or friends are prepping for me, and we're talking for 5 6 hours while I am, where I do replens, so it's very easy for me to rebuy. Like I'm not using much brain frequency to just replenish while I'm having these full conversations and getting to spend time with some family and friends that I've spent more time with them now than I have in my life since I
Yeah.
was living with my parents and living with my family.
Yeah.
And I mean, how can you put a price tag on that? How can you put a risk factor on that?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't. And so as much changes that are happening with Amazon, without a doubt, like people have asked me, like, are you still doing arbitrage? Are you still doing replens? Are you transitioning to private label? It's like, no, because I have all these extra benefits that because I'm able to, my cash flow is good. Like if I'm suspended, I don't have this huge amount of money I have to owe. Because I'm safe there, I'm carrying on and I'm planned to carry on. And yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything about
Oh,
that, but those
yeah.
those are
Great
just the
stuff.
those are just the good things that make me keep doing this despite the added risks.
And let me just add to that just a little bit. That's what got me into this originally was I was away from my family, climbing the corporate career kind of thing, which required a 40-hour a week minimum away from home plus commute 50 to 60 if you're serious about your career kind of thing. And I'm like, my kids are growing up. I'm going to miss that. This beautiful girl that I married, we don't get to spend much time together. And she's getting the tired version of me every day. There's got to be a better way. That's the things that motivated me. So I've got to do life now over 20 years with those people nearby, having those meaningful conversations. That's our reality. Work and life are integrated in together. We do it together. I put my business in my pocket. We go where we want to go, and I keep things rocking because I've got internet access. A couple hours a day, minimum, when we're traveling or doing a family vacation. I've got to get in, check on things, make sure everything's good. But uh, we built that very intentionally for the reasons that you went into. And I will just say this too. I think one of the reasons our culture is at risk, this is a bold thing to say perhaps, but just, think it through with me out, thinking out loud. If mom and dad get up in the morning and go separate directions and give the best version of themselves, maybe great endeavors, but then they come home
Yeah.
tired, two income career families, and they come home tired. So they're constantly getting the tired version of each other with all the other responsibilities and obligations. Like that's a much harder way to do a relationship than is, hey, let's
Yeah.
work on something together. Let's build it together. So I'm not talking down to anyone. I'm just saying I've got to spend a lot more quality time with the people who are most important to me, thankfully, because of e-commerce. Now, there's a ton of challenges that come with it, of course, but is it worth it? 20 years, 22 years in for me? Absolutely. There
Yeah.
hasn't been a single day that I've regretted that we jumped in with both feet and went down this road. And my kids are seeing the benefits of it, the relationships we have now. The experiment has run its course, and it was a beautiful decision to go down this road. So that's not me talking about any one given strategy. This is just me saying the idea of being able to work from home and manage my own routine and hours, worth it, no
Yeah.
question. So yeah, I appreciate your comments on that as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's important for us to. One thing I remind myself is just because our society or I've always done something, it doesn't mean that we need to keep doing it.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's the biggest argument against change is, look, people have believed this for 2,000 years. Like, of course it's true. It's like, well, we have pivoted in the past and had some wonderful civil rights and women's rights things that we did it wrong as a society for a very, very long time. And
Sure.
similarly, there's some roles that dads have played for a very long time that, quite
Hmm.
frankly, need to stop, in my opinion. And so for me personally, like what my day to day looks like is in the morning I wake up, I go to the gym, and I will go to the office, make sure that if I have preppers there, that they have all the labels they need, they know what they have to do. And then I come home because I want to be there when my kids wake up. I have three kids. Two of them gravitate towards me and are more of daddy's kids in the sense of, I guess, who they listen to and just the ages they are. They just want to hang out with.
Sure.
And one
There's
is one is
seasons for all of
absolutely a
them.
mama's boy. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
seasons. This could change. One is a
Yeah.
mama's boy.
Right.
I come home because I want to be there when my kids wake up. And I play an integral role in my family to make sure that my kids are starting their day off right. I make sure they get fed well, make sure that we start homeschool now with math because I love math and I'm good at math.
Hmm.
And one of those things our society has said for a while is, yeah, just let the teachers teach, like put them in school, let them teachers teach. If I have a gift that I want to give my kids, why am I not the one giving that to them? And there's many, many. So this isn't just about school. There's some very good public schools, very good private schools, many
Sure.
optional things for there. But and many different dads have many different gifts to give. It might be a gift of labor, and like I wish my dad was a little better with a saw and outdoor stuff because I didn't get that. But some dads, that's the gift to give their kids is to give them their skill set and pass it down. And so that's one thing that I do. And so until 10 o'clock, I'm there homeschooling my kids primarily on math, but I know some of the other stuff my wife does. And then I head back to the office and I get my work done. Now that I know they've had a good morning, we were started the right way, and I can work at peace, At least that's the ideal day, right? Sometimes they don't like dad either in the morning, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's
Um,
always room for flexibility, and yeah, we
yeah,
we had our routines. It was like, what are we characterized by? And then there's, once or twice a week, even there's like, okay, throw the plan out the window. When there's a new baby, the baby is the lesson today. Mom's sick, that's the lesson today. We're all going to fill in, right? It's like you just take life as it comes, but you're doing it together. That's the beautiful thing. And I don't want to riff on this too long, but again, I just got to say that my kids, we did kind of what you just described. We did an entire educational career for all our kids. That's all they ever knew was homeschooling. Their mom was their main teacher. I always say there's no one that's ever going to love your kids more than their mom does. And if she
mhm,
can be their teacher too, man, what a beautiful benefit that is, right? But they all love each other. The kids just love being together. They love hanging out. They're best friends with each other. They love family. We're able to instill those values in them, and they're off doing their things now. They're all getting older, but man, it's a great way to do family. And I don't want to make anyone feel bad today, thinking, "Oh, wow, I messed that up. I can't do that. I can't swim." We're just saying, hey, if you're able to, there's a lot of cool benefits that come with the stuff we're describing here. And you and I have a pretty similar worldview on all of that. But let's get to the technical details, man. Let's talk about Amazon a little bit. And this is
yeah,
an e-commerce podcast. So what are you seeing? You've coached 100 students. I know the theme's going to be things aren't the way they used to be. Well, that's been true for 20 years. You look back in time a
yeah.
year, man, it was different back then. I've been hearing that for 20 years. There's always new opportunities that come with the new challenges. But what have we been seeing, man? Let's get people up to speed.
Yeah. So I started 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago. and the landscape was just completely different. I'd say so. What I actually spoke at conference 2 years ago, and
That's
I
right.
said something along the lines of, if you want to scale to full-time income, I have no I it wouldn't bother me whatsoever to suggest to someone to open up a 0% APR credit card that you don't have to pay off for 12 months, rack a bunch of inventory on that as you're learning to help you scale faster. And because of what we know about the risk with Amazon now, I would not encourage, some quick debt. You have to have some form of debt with Amazon, debt meaning that your inventory is your debt, but inventory is an asset. It's just
Right.
sitting at Amazon warehouses. But as a new seller, like, you want to make a bunch of small mistakes. That's what you want to do starting off. And so there's still a time, like, once you find proof of concept, once you've, done a few rounds of inventory and you are buying and selling and you can confirm you're actually making money. I emphasis on confirm, because there's many people that I've started with as students that thought they were making way more than they were. Once you get a tool like Seller Board or like Inventory Lab, that you can actually see the accounting in there. But there's a time to do that. But we also want to do it right, right away. And if you make mistakes, make some small mistakes. And I would also say the opportunity is still there, but the opportunity takes longer than it does 3 or 4 years ago. So if you are listening to a podcast, if you listen to my podcast, my first ever one that I did, and I talk about how I was able to have $100,000 a month within 12 months of starting on Amazon, that, quite frankly, is very, very hard now. It was already the exception, but it's maybe twice as much the exception. And that's because account reserves, the money that Amazon holds, is longer. And as we talked about briefly before we hit record, it's they have to do these quality control checks. Amazon has to, because there are counterfeit sellers out there. There's people that are drop shipping. There's people that are doing a lot of things wrong. And the people that are doing those things are doing them on purpose, intentionally, illegally. And they haven't been increasing drastically in the past 3 years. So what has Amazon naturally done to stop it? What have they done? Number one, there are many more random Section 3 checks just to make sure your inventory is good. Of no fault of your own, there's random, I don't even know if it's Section 3 would be those, but there are random times that, hey, we're going to pause your funds. You can still sell. We're just going to check some things here.
We need
I
some
wish,
receipts. Yeah.
yes, I wish they didn't do that. They do that.
Mhm.
So having your receipts in order is very important in the beginning. But also what they do, and this maybe isn't talked about quite as much, is they are gating people in the beginning way, way more. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about here, is like how we can manage that. Because it used to be, after selling at a decent velocity for 4 to 6 months, everything becomes ungated. You can sell pretty much everything. At the very least, it's not hard to get an invoice for something to ungate yourself. But there are some, and we don't know why some accounts are gated more than others. It's not universal that every new person can sell this and every person can sell this. Because
Right.
someone was in a conversation we were having of like, hey, what are some brands we could like encourage people to start on? And it's like, it's different for every person. I don't know why, but it is. And so that's why that's my cautions. That's my, hey, if you're listening to something from 3 to 4 years ago in a podcast that will contradict what I say, it's because it's from 3 or 4 years ago and it was true then, and it might not be true now.
Hey, we'll get back to the program in just a second, but I've got to tell you about the great sponsor today, Seller Board. Get over to silentjimdotcom/numbers. Spell it out. silentjim.com/numbers numbers. You're going to see a link to the tool that has become quickly the preferred tool in our community for helping you track your numbers, helping you know which of your ASINs are making a profit and which ones you should walk away from, at least temporarily, because you're not making any money. It can be fairly tricky to know and dial in all the Amazon fees and all the expenses. Well, that's what Seller Board helps you do, among a whole bunch of other things. It's a great tool that's become a great sponsor of this community. We've helped send a lot of very happy users their way. They've got a great discount for you as well. get over to silentjimdotcom/numbers and check out Seller Board. You're going to love what these guys are up to. It just keeps getting better and better. And their starting prices are so ridiculously low. It becomes a bit of a no-brainer. Go check it out. That's Seller Board at silentjim.com/numbers. Let's get back to the show.
That will contradict what I say. It's because it's from 3-4 years ago and it was true then, and it might not be true now.
Right. Which one of the things we've always tried to encourage is, hey, there's value in all of our podcast episodes. We have got almost 1,000 episodes, and it'd be hard to find an episode where there wasn't some good, timely, evergreen value. But you got to stay up to date with the latest content and information. Part of e-commerce, what you sign up for is you're going to be in learning mode constantly. Change is the only constant. There's always going to be something changing. But that presents, from my vantage point, again, a guy that's done this a couple decades, that's where the opportunity is. Because the people who say, no, I want to do things the way I've been doing them for the last 8 years, I don't want to change anything, those people are no longer your competition. It's the people who are adapting, changing, willing to pivot, willing to see all these new oppositions coming as opportunity. One example of that, Grant, is right now we know Amazon is trimming out a lot of brands from their vendor central offers. That's the people who send inventory straight to Amazon. They're trimming out thousands of them, saying, hey, we don't want to do business with any little brands anymore. You guys need to jump into Seller Central with all the resellers and work there. The ones that don't want to, they need help. So when Amazon pivots and makes life inconvenient in any way for anyone, if you step back and look, there's opportunity there now. So there's a lot of opportunity for people who are willing to put in the work, put in the time, pivot, stay with a community that can help you navigate this stuff. And truth be told, that's exactly how it's been from day one. Nate and I estimated that we've seen at least 100 major changes on the major selling platforms since we started selling 20 plus years ago. And it's funny, they run the same pattern. It's, oh no, this guy is falling. Well, it might be okay. Oh, look, new opportunity for those who are paying attention. It's the same pattern every time. And this is no exception. But yeah, we want to paint very realistic expectations. You can't just sell 10, 20 items and expect Lego and all grocery and everything else to just fall at your feet and be wide open for you now. Takes a little more work, takes a little more time. Amazon's a little slower to trust sellers now. They just are. But the plus side is, if you're a trusted seller on Amazon, that's a more valuable asset than it's ever been before. It's a prize worth pursuing, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, what else? What else is on your list, man? I love the updates and insights.
Yeah. So every account is different, but there's a lot of categories you can go into right away. And so I didn't want to forget these, so I broke these down.
Good news. But, yeah, let's do it.
But the categories that you're most likely to be ungated in, you're going to be ungated in nothing like fully. Like it's the whole category for nothing is ungated for anybody, not even me.
No selling.
But So the categories I wrote down were arts and craft, clothing, home and kitchen, industrial and scientific, office products, lawn and garden, pet supplies, and tools and home improvement. Those are the ones that are most likely to be ungated in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could say more. I wish I could even do a narrow focus, but it's as simple as you have to. And so the easiest way to do it is a Keepa product finder search. It's if you pay for Keepa, which you should if you're selling on Amazon.
You have to.
It's a free tool that comes along with it. And you could do certain criteria into that, including the category, to spit out ASINs that would be most likely that you could sell and flip. And so with my students, I'll live go through these. We will live do Keepa product finder searches at whatever types of things they're wanting to sell and different things. But you can do that, and there's a wide range of metrics to do that. You do some for the above the buy box approach, right? Like, hey, here within this category, here's also then some filters to add that to get above the buy box. So whatever you're looking for, it's different. And then as you're going through that data, continue to make note of the categories you can sell the most of. When you list something, have it written down there. Hey, I've got 5 ASINs sent in. 3 of them are from pet supplies, and one of them's from clothing, and one's from arts and craft. Write that down. And as you send in the next one, write the next down. So then you might be really surprised that you've got 20, 30 ASINs in, and you're like, half of these are pet supplies. And so maybe I should start targeting my searches at pet supplies. Maybe when I manually source, I should look more at PetSmart and Petco and Chewy, and I should focus on these retailers that sell pet supplies. But there's a chance that you're actually gated in every single pet supply. And that's not true for you, and you have to do the same thing in a different category.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, the students have to do the work. The Amazon seller has to do the work. You have to find out with your account what, for whatever reason, Amazon is ungating you in. But here's the good thing. Whatever you focus on, it will unlock more. So if you hypothetically like just sold pet supplies, you would then, so you can't sell pet food early on, for example. That's something that is gated for almost every new seller. But if you got 3-4 months of pet supply sales and Amazon likes your metrics, you might get ungated in the rest of the category faster because you have been confirmed that you are a reliable seller. And so going back to what we were saying of, why is Amazon doing this? It's because there are a lot of people that are committing harm to the buyers on Amazon, and Amazon wants to stop them. And so what can we do to lift the gates to make things easier for us to prove to Amazon that we are not one of them? How do you prove to Amazon that you are not one of them? You sell things and you don't get returns, or at least your return rate is lower than the norm for that, right? If you sell clothing, you're going to get returns. But if you have 5 to 8% returns in clothing, that lights up something to Amazon that says this person is doing a really good job. And then slowly those gates kind of unlock.
Yeah. In that list, I love that list that you gave, and you mentioned not pet food, all pet supplies, just not pet food, which is something we've said for a while now. But the clothing one was a bit of a surprise to me, and I'm unaware of that. Clothing in my mind has always been a harder one to get into, but you're seeing some new sellers have success getting ungated quickly with clothing, huh?
Yeah, so like not lots of new sellers are gated in Nike and Converse and Adidas, and not those, but
Right.
there's some name brands at Walmart and Target and Kohl's and stuff like that is a
Cool.
off brand that they don't like. Amazon naturally is going to put higher value in the higher market price of things
Sure.
because if they'd rather have a counterfeit $4 sale than a $100 sale. My guess, I'm assuming
Sure.
that's true. And so there will be some of those, but yeah, like
That's a good one for the
again, every
list.
account's different, but for sure there's still some clothing. Now, clothing would not be my number one because there is a lot, like the big brands are the best money in clothing,
Mhm.
but still there's some brands you'd be surprised of that you can sell early on
Yeah.
in each of those
Yeah,
categories.
and the return rate's a little higher in clothing too. You kind of alluded to that, shoes and clothing. I tend
Yeah.
to talk newer sellers out of that category just because it can be disappointing and your metrics can look not so great, especially like women's shoes. Like, oh man, you're going to get a lot of returns, and so be
Yeah.
cautious there. But the other categories you mentioned, beautiful. And actually, I've got a shortcut link. I wouldn't mind you reviewing it before this podcast comes out, Grant. Just take a look and make
Sure.
sure that it lines up with what we said today. I think it does. Go to silentjimdotcom/ungating. That's a shortcut link to a Facebook post where we kind of talk through some of what you just said, and we've got the categories listed out there. See if you would adjust any of that based on what you're hearing and seeing lately. So we'll make sure that's the most recent information on the good categories to get started in, and how much time it realistically takes. Because I think that's an older post. I think we were saying things like, hey, sell 40 or 50 items, you'll start to see things happen, which you might, but probably not as much as you would have, say, a
Yeah, I
couple of
don't I
years
don't think
ago,
so anymore.
right? Yeah, you may need, to stay in those friendly ASINs a little longer. But I will say this, if you're finding good ASINs that you're gated for, man, collect those, because eventually you will be ungated, and eventually you will want to review and monitor those ASINs. It just takes a
Yeah.
little longer to earn Amazon's trust. Consistency over time. That's how you build trust. Relationships
Yeah.
and with Amazon, right? It's the same thing. So the better you perform as a seller, the more doors they're going to open for you. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is on your list, though, Grant?
Yeah. So with my students, typically, most people that get coaching, and this will make sense, but most of them are wanting to make full-time income. Not all of them, right? But if you're going to spend X amount of dollars to get coaching, normally you don't want to spend X amount of dollars to make $200 a month or $500 a month.
Right.
Normally it's,
Yeah.
hey, well, I want to learn how to build a business and have all the perks that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I see it, and this is all personal preference, and all of my students have varying different business models. But for me, the first like 3 to 6 months should be spent on, again, convincing Amazon as quickly as we can that we are a legitimate seller.
Right.
So the things that I believe that Amazon looks at to say you are our legitimate, or I would say not even that. The things that Amazon loves, if Amazon could choose exactly what it is that we do and what our business model is, which some of these I'm gonna read and you're gonna be like, well, that's ridiculous. But still, if Amazon could choose like everything about our business, this is what they would want. Number one, they want us to sell at a low price. Number two, they want us to have move units. Number three, they want us to have low returns. I talked about that. We can definitely do that. And number four, they actually do like replenishments. There's so many benefits to the replens model because when you sell a brand repeatedly, you will up your buy box percentage and the favor that they will give you on a listing. You can, on many things that I've sold for over a year now, if you look at the buy box percentage for me, I'll notice that my price on average is higher than the other top two, three, or four sellers. But my price is higher, but I'm still getting my share of the buy box. Now, why is that? It's because Amazon has confirmed that, like, so let's say if I was selling a bunch of Dove, like a bunch of Dove soap, I also sell the shampoo, the body. I just go all in on Dove, right? And I've sold so much Dove over the course of the year, and Amazon has confirmed, hey, he prices reasonably. He's sold a lot of units. He isn't getting returns, and he sold a lot of Dove. You want to know what happens anytime I list something that's Dove? I immediately have preferential treatment from Amazon and I get the buy box more. I get more sales on that. And so that's what Amazon wants us to do. Now, I do want to point out, like after these first 3 to 6 months, I want all my students to all choose whatever business model works for them. If you want to just price high and price slow, your margins will be much better than my margins are. And if you want to do the above the buy box approach, you won't move as many units, but there's a lot of things that I don't sell that I could only sell if I did that model. So it opens up some opportunities. There's pros and benefits to everything, right? But the goal, again, for the first 3 to 6 months is we need to convince Amazon that we are a legitimate seller. So what I encourage a lot of my students to do is, hey, if you can sell it and you can make a couple bucks, let's sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make some really small mistakes. Let's send in 3 to 5 units of whatever it is you can sell. You buy it for $5, you make $2, that's okay. You're learning. You want to make small mistakes. You don't want to buy that $60 thing that you think is making $10 to $15 profit. That's Nike, but like you say, you don't. That's false profit. It's with returns, you're actually not making hardly anything, and the price might tank. If you want to make these small mistakes with things that are still selling at 30% ROI or more is lots of times the number that we go for. So you're not buying something for $50 and making $2 profit. You'd be buying something for $4 or $5 making $2 profit. But what you want to do is just find some low wins that that you can move, that that you can sell. And the more units that you turn safely, but first time you buy 3 to 5, if all those sell out, buy 8 to 10. And you're basically doing that across anything you can sell until you notice that those gates unlock. And I can't put my finger on the time it takes because, again, it's different for every seller. But I can say just repeatedly, there's a time that it just clicks, and that there's a student that comes to me and recognizes, hey, I'm doing, someone normally it's around 15, 20,000 a month in sales, and they're like, I have more opportunities to buy stuff than I know what to do with my time. And at that point, that's when you have to decide, what's my business model? What's my strategy? Do I want to pivot to wholesale? Do I want to keep selling these? Are these things I was selling for $2 worth it anymore? Then that's when you have that question. But what have you accomplished over those 6 months selling whatever you can? What have you done? You've sent in maybe 15, 20 shipments to Amazon, and now you can go do a shipment like a pro. You've dealt with high pricing errors and stranded inventory and all these frustrating parts. You've been gated in things, and now you know how to handle it. You've opened up a Walmart account or an eBay account, and now you know how to liquidate those things. And so now, hopefully, things unlock in 6 to 12 months. And now you get to ask yourself, do I want to put foot on the pedal? Do I want to open up a 0% interest credit card? Do I want to spend more inventory? Do I want to make this into a full-time gig? What do I want to do? But what focusing on those things, getting a whole bunch of small wins and making a whole bunch of small mistakes just makes that process happen faster. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and we'll talk about some more
No,
stuff.
I think it's brilliant. I love it. I mean, these are the patterns that we're seeing. So it's very realistic. You kind of started this segment out, okay, what's involved in going full time? I know that there's people out there saying, hey, yeah, within a month or two, we'll have you a full-time level income. We've never said that. I mean, this is realistically minimum before you start seeing any kind of return, 2 to 3 months. And you want to turn this into something full-time, we're talking a 6 month minimum before you start to see, this is the way it's always been in my mind, the light at the end of the tunnel, like, all right, man, this could be something full-time. And about a year in, with diligence, consistent effort, you'll know what you're up against. And for me, that's never really changed. There was some little spikes of opportunity, and around Q4 you can get in and just find yourself clearing the shelf and making $20,000 in a single month as a new seller because you hit some goal that everyone wanted for Christmas. But as far as like having a sustainable business model that consistently pays the bills, yeah, but even just saying that, it makes me nervous because I've never been the put all your eggs in one basket kind of guy when it comes to e-commerce. I want you to have a beautiful foundation. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months to know that that's what you've got. Make all the little mistakes. I love the way you say it, Grant. We want you out there making little mistakes, not the tragic game-ending mistakes, ordering a bunch of stuff off Alibaba and slapping some fake trademark on it, sending in 300 units and then pay-per-click ad your way into some money that ends up getting you into legal trouble and losing your account, right? Like that's one of many examples. We see people doing this stuff. But I'm talking about the little harmless mistakes, the stuff you can overcome. We want you making those mistakes. And then what you have is just a wide open landscape of opportunities, like you said, wholesale, private label, get into some consulting, do some Amazon influencer, which you mentioned that earlier. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes for folks who want to check that out. We will be adding that to the Proven Amazon course at some point in the future, but right now it's a separate course. But another just a beautiful add-on income stream, Walmart, eBay, Facebook Marketplace for the stuff that you can't easily sell. Now you got multiple income streams. And you've got some fallback plans and you've got some relationship and a network. So yeah, everything you're saying resonates with me beautifully. And I love that we've been able to build a robust community while not sugarcoating anything. We're not there selling, we're not out there selling, hey, send us some money and you'll have a full-time business in a few weeks. No, this is work. This is risk. This is tenacity required. But again, it's so worth doing. And that's what business is, man. It just is. I talk to other business owners in every arena and they'll all say the same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of parts of this I just don't like, and there's risks to it. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out for folks, but I'd take this over anything, man. This is what we do. There's a reason we teach this. We could be teaching real estate. We don't. We could be teaching investment course. We don't. We teach this because the lives that we've seen changed. And it's an honor to work with you, man. But yeah, that all resonates with me. So what else was on your list? I thought you hit that one very well, and I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, no, that's about it. I would say there is a difference between profit and cash flow. And that's something that is actually really hard for someone that's new to e-commerce to understand. Most of us, we do jobs that are service jobs. We do a service, we do a task, and we get paid for doing that task.
Right.
And that's like, if you're a teacher, like this is almost everything except for e-commerce, but like, or being self-employed, but you're a teacher, you get paid, you get your daily or weekly or biweekly paycheck. If you're a restaurant server, I take care of tables and I get paid that day. I immediately get paid. So it is true that after 2 to 3 months, it's very common to see a profit, and even possible 3 to 6 months to see full-time profit from it looks like from the books of, hey, I sold, 20,000 in inventory and in my 6 month, and of that I profited $4,000. You can see that on the books and the profits there. However, I like to caution people, and sometimes this is our very first conversation when people come to me with very lofty goals and saying, look, I want to quit my job in 3 months, be selling full-time on Amazon. Hold on. This is what that would look like in that scenario. where is that $4,000 profit that you just made on Amazon in your 6th month? You want to know where it is? It's in inventory.
That's
You
right.
rebought stuff with that same profit and you resend it in. My first year on Amazon, I did 400 something thousand in sales. And what I turned into the IRS was a loss of 10 grand. Now, where was that loss? Why did that loss exist? It's because I had 50, 60 grand in inventory that I was able to write off. So did I make a profit? Yes.
Eventually.
Was I able to go to take, vacation every month with that profit? No, because I had to buy more inventory with it. And so this is, I think we could talk about this for an hour and we still wouldn't be able to
Easily.
fully articulate it
Yeah.
until someone actually goes through it and does it. But that's such a common question I get is, hey, Grant, I'm seeing profits, but I'm out of money. Like, but where's yeah, and then let's run an inventory evaluation on Inventory Lab. Hey, you have 7 grand of money in Inventory Lab in inventory at Amazon
Right.
warehouses. Is that where, is that about what you were expecting to have? Well, yeah, like, okay, yeah, you rebought it. It's where it is. And,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually over time, right? As long as eventually there comes a point that you profit enough that you can take some of that profit out and help provide for your family. And then there's enough profit left over to reinvest. And then it starts, that's when the fun starts happening. But initially, especially if you start with $0, you're not going to be positive cash flow your first year. You're just not. I mean, unless you find some amazing, if you go garage sale hunting and do some clearance stuff, maybe you could, right? Getting really high ROI stuff. Yeah, there's a possibility for that. Will you make a profit your first year? Absolutely, you will. But if you want to keep scaling, your money's in inventory.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's what makes that's what makes it hard, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we want to balance risk and we want to diversify. We want to make sure not all of our eggs are in the same basket, or at least, what I would advise to that person that's doing really, really well. If you have that 0% APR credit card that you don't have to pay off for 9 months from now, hey, that gets you a little bit safer if you have to do a 2-week check on your inventory that Amazon forces you to do. Not ideal, but still that's the world we live in, right? So yes, opportunity is there. I work 20 hours a week on my Amazon business to do the numbers that I do. Opportunity is there. You got to scale, you got to outsource, and then goodness, there's more opportunities than you have time for. But it
Absolutely.
takes some
Good
work
inventory is
to get it done.
everywhere. People think that's the challenge. It's not. It's building the systems, managing those systems. And one of the visuals that I use with people is just, it's kind of a machine that you slip $2 in and you get $3 back
Yeah.
later. And how much money do you want to put into that machine? How much money do you have to put into that machine? And it's going to take some time. And sometimes you only get $2 back. Sometimes you get less than $2 back. But the majority of the time, if you're doing it right, you get at least your $2, if not $3 back out of the machine. But if you're spending that extra dollar, you're going to scale a lot slower than if you're putting it all back into the machine. And that's basically what you're saying. That's the difference between cash flow and actual, money that you can take home and spend and buy stuff with. Some people have, and one of the things I love about our coaching program too, Grant, to make the point I'm making here, is sometimes people come to us and say, okay, I've got 50 grand to put into this. I want to go fast. We put them through the same exact 2 to 3 month experience as everyone else, where you're not spending hardly any money on tools and resources, and maybe you get a coach, but you're scaling in nice and slow. You're buying 2 or 3 units at a time. You're learning the basic foundational elements of this. Once you've got those foundational elements in place, having a nice bankroll really helps. But until you understand the basics, it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank. You need to understand what it means to buy inventory. What's it mean to test an ASIN, send in 2 or 3 units, keep an eye on it. It seems boring, but once you've got those foundational concepts nailed down, now we can go further faster and use some of that maybe side cash that you've got. But we take a very intentional, weighed in, nice and slow approach here. Because the last thing we want to do is contribute to the long list of offers out there in the Amazon seller training world where people jump in with both feet, spend 30 to 50 grand, and 9 months late, a year later, they're like, whoa, what happened? All I did was lose a bunch of money and I've got a garage full of stuff I can't sell. Like, that's easy to do. We don't want that to happen to anyone. So we don't allow it to with the strategies we teach. And you're doing a great job, man. I just got to say, the feedback we get from our coaching team is phenomenal. And you're right up there. Everyone who has you as a coach, everyone that I've heard from has just absolutely loved you. You're doing a tremendous job. So it's an honor having you on the team and working with you, man.
Well, cool. Well, hey, I know we've talked for a while. I want to end with, I want to make sure I land on what I said I was going to talk about, and that if you're a new person, you're going to have like this roadmap, and
Yeah,
then end with just a couple coaching things. But like,
let's
so
do it.
like in summary, like if you're a brand new seller, you're going to focus on those categories we talked about, find the ones that speak the most to you, or that you're just simply ungated the most in.
Right,
Once you start selling those products and seeing you're approved, kind of double down and continue to search more in those type of categories, or with those type of products, or with those type of brands. I'd encourage you to make a bunch of small mistakes. It's okay if it makes you a couple bucks, if it's still 30% ROI or more, as long as it's not clothing, double that,
yeah,
60% ROI or more on clothing
right.
because of those returns.
Returns.
And by then, you're going to ideally see a profit, learn proof of concept. And then that's when you start to kind of pull the trigger on maybe the more expensive things and you start maybe trying more of the above the buy box approach, or you start, you get maybe a feel for eBay and Walmart marketplace. And then that comes along once you're at that point when things start unlocking. With my students, I do give them the option if they want to get ungated in a brand. I know so many wholesalers that or a category, excuse me, that if there's like grocery is a really good one to start off in, and I'll give them an ASIN that'll get them ungated in grocery from a wholesaler that I know.
Hmm.
And that does, like, again, this is why people get into coaching, is it expedites the process, right? Like,
Right. Go further faster.
yes. And so that sometimes can help. Not everything is great in groceries. Some people really hate expiration dates and dealing with that, which I've I've had my fair share of marshmallows that expired the second they came in, and I had to eat them or return them. And it's frustrating. But there's other categories too that I help my students with if they really feel like they have a knowledge in a category, but it's lacking. Then sometimes there's some options with that. It's not required though to get ungated in anything automatically. But then, once that, and really you do that method until maybe you save those, like you suggested, you save those lists of brands that you couldn't sell, and you have those on a long list. And then maybe one day, 3 months pass by, like, hey, I'm going to check like 20 of these real quick and see, and it's nothing. And then 6 months pass by, then all of a sudden I'm going to check some of these and see, and maybe you start to see you're ungated. And then that means you can start the whole thing over, and you can venture into other categories, start to diversify some things a little bit. The thing that's great about our coaching program is that if someone comes to me and says, hey, Grant, I think I'm ready for Walmart Marketplace, I don't, then usually the first thing I say is, hey, your other coach isn't Michael Morejon, is it? He's really good at Walmart. How about you get a session? Let's do a session with him and see if that's the route you want to go by, right? We have a lot of coaches that specialize in certain things. I can
Right.
sell on Walmart because I liquidate all my bad buys or IP complaints on Walmart, but I'm not a sourcing expert on Walmart Marketplace.
Sure.
But people like Walmart or people like Michael are much better than me. And so you get the opportunity to have another coach that does that. If you want to get into private label, I had another one of my students. He's built a great replens business and is happy with where he is with that. And he was interested in private label. And I was like, hey, look, I know this coach, John, who's great at that. Let's maybe get you a few sessions with him, see if that's what you want to do. And so that's not recommended until you've established that initial business, right? Like, these are
Right.
students that have had more than 6 sessions with me.
They have the
Um,
foundation. Yeah.
yes, the foundation is there, but that's where, I even have a meeting with Nathan scheduled because I'm interested in private label now, right? It's taken me three
Right.
years,
Right.
but now I'm interested in going down that route. And yeah, but like unfortunately, sometimes it is patience. And I am not someone that had patience when I started. You hear back my story, I scaled fast because I wanted to make full-time income fast. If I were to do it over again, I would have had more patience, gone a little slower, and a few less initial mistakes. But then once it clicks, both internally for you, and when Amazon says you're good to go, bro, like your account's good, we've got your health score is better now that you've moved some moved some units, and you're ungated in a lot of things. Then that's where I try to get my students to, because then it quite frankly gets a lot easier to sell on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, the doors open even wider. And the nice thing too, as they've kind of raised the threshold of what it takes to be a trusted seller, the value of being a trusted seller continues to go up. It's a prize worth having. Because just to remind everyone, I know you know this, Doug, but for the listeners today, or Grant, I'm sorry, I called you Doug. Half of all transactions online are happening on Amazon any given day in the United States. They're exploding. This is where all the eyeballs are. This is where all the customers are. This is what I remind people every time they say, oh no, Amazon made this change. Like the customers are still shopping. They eliminated a whole bunch of ASINs. This is terrible. No, the customers are still showing up and shopping just as much today as they were yesterday. There's just a little bit less in the catalog today as a result of those changes. So what are you going to do about that? You need to hop on some of the ASINs where the eyeballs are. That's this business model. So all the indicators, the big indicators are really in our favor. Amazon continues to be top opportunity. Walmart, a second place. eBay, a distant third. Facebook Marketplace, the last resort. Liquidate some of that stuff you just can't sell. But you get familiar and confident in that order with those marketplaces, you have a lot of opportunities available to you. And we continue to be very bullish. I think 2025 is going to be a big year as Amazon kind of settles in. And I think they're going to let off the gas a little bit on all the changes and enforcements and because they need. I had a conversation, Grant, with a senior VP at Amazon, and they've given me no indication that they've ever moved away from this when he said, we need third-party sellers. They fill the shelves better than we will ever be able to. We have to have them. And as they make life a little harder for us sometimes, you see the people like, oh, I don't think they even want third-party sellers anymore. Oh, no, that can't possibly be true. They need us. We're a good 30 to 40% of everything we sell all day, every day, if not more, right? They have
Yeah.
to have us. But they have to make sure it's not counterfeit or drop ship or, stolen goods. You see a lot of stolen goods. A lot of these, Jeff Schick was telling me, a lot of these shoplifting rings, they just kind of run in and wipe out stores, a gang of people, whatever, and just clean out a store. What do they do with that stuff to turn it into money? Well, they'll take it to some fake wholesaler who sells it to Amazon sellers.
Yep.
That's one of the ways they liquidate. So when Amazon says, hey, section 3, let's check your receipts and make sure this is legit, you better not be buying from one of these illegitimate wholesalers that doesn't have brand authorization to sell the stuff they're selling, because you could get accused of selling stolen goods. That's why it's
Yeah.
such a big deal to stay clean and stay legit. But if you do, the opportunity from my vantage point has never been brighter. There's just a few new hurdles, trust hurdles to get over in the process. But yeah, you've stated it brilliantly, man. And thanks for all the good work you do. Again, I appreciate it very much. You're doing an awesome job. You really are. So anything else on your mind before we wind this one down?
No, I think that's about it. And I'd agree with you. The opportunity is still there. The hurdles are harder for new sellers. There's people in our community that for free. I mean, I respond to many things in just the public Facebook group
Yeah.
more than anything to one, because some of it is it's easy help and I like helping people, but it also educates me. There's sometimes that I'll respond to something and then say, hey, will you like reply back what happens? Like
Yeah.
tell me if what this advice is working. And I'll do that to my
Right.
students all the time. Like, hey, I heard one student said this happened, and I'm going to give you this advice. Tell me if it works or not.
Yeah. What do you see?
But yeah, but we're here to help for those hurdles for new sellers. And if you want to get into coaching, my biggest caution would be make sure you have enough money for inventory after you pay for coaching. I know that the coaching office echoes the same thing, but that's all you need. You just need money for inventory, and then opportunities to live source with coaches and to send screenshots of ASINs and getting a thorough reply on why that's good, why that's bad. Hey, that has one seller on that. If you would send that in, you'd probably get an IP complaint. Hey, let's eliminate that initial account health problem. Lots of good things that come along with that. If it matches, your goals long term, if it matches your risk tolerance. But I would even still say that when you compare the risk of starting your own business on Amazon versus starting virtually any other business, with whether it is, what's one of the cheapest franchises to open? I think Subway. I think still to open up a franchise Subway still costs over 10 grand. And and you don't get to work with your friends and family at Subway.
Oh, and that'll be
Um,
years. Basically, you've just bought a full-time job for yourself, is what I've heard on most of this.
exactly. Yeah.
Hiring and firing teenagers for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
some of them do well, but yeah, in comparison, I've had realtors, I've had former franchise owners, I've had CEOs, I've had former medical professionals, doctors, surgeons, lawyers, people that went from that to this lifestyle and risk, the reality of the risk of this business model, and just love what we do here. That's why we do what we do here. We see this as the lowest hanging fruit business opportunity. If there was better lower hanging fruit business opportunities, we'd be talking about them. If you think you know of one, reach out to me. We love teaching people how to build legitimate businesses, but the foundation has to be I get to work from home and it gets to be flexible and I get to scale however big I want to go, right? Build teams
Yeah.
and multiple income streams. If it fits into that model, man, let's talk. This is the best stuff that we've found and with a very bright future. I say it all the time, Grant, but we've got 20%, I think, is where we're at right now as far as retail penetration. E-commerce is only 20% of retail.
Yeah.
80% is still traditional brick and mortar, get in your car and go. Like the game has only begun. The future is very bright for those of us in e-commerce. You just hang in there, keep diversifying, stay with a good community that you trust, and the future is very bright. Well, hey, it's good hanging out with you, man. I appreciate it again. Thanks for volunteering to jump on here with me today. It's always good to hang out with our coaches.
Yep. No worries at all. Good talking.
Appreciate you, man. For the listeners today, if you're new around here, a reminder, I probably mentioned this in the introduction as well, but we've got hundreds of interviews where we've talked to the students from this community who have faced the challenges, faced the realities of building a real business online, and they've come out with something that they're proud of and they share their journey. That's what most episodes are, along with other great insights and details on how you can build a beautiful business, a lot of educational episodes as well. But as we approach 1,000 episodes, the vast majority are interviews with successful students. So scroll back in time a little bit, get some motivation and encouragement from some of the other students who have been on the road that you're thinking about getting on. And thanks for joining us today. God bless you, business building warrior. I'll have another great episode for you very soon. Hey, one last thing before I let you go today, a little reminder. Today's sponsor was Seller Board. They are a tremendous partner of this community. They've been supporting hundreds of users who listen to this show, who are thrilled with the service they're providing, from a simple tool that helps you know if you're profitable or not in your Amazon business, which of your ASINs are winning, making you money, which ones are losing, costing you some money that need to be cut out. It would be so helpful to know, wouldn't it? Well, that's what Sellerboard does. It's very simple to set up, low costs to get started. They've got a special offer for our community, and you can check it out at silentjimdotcom/numbers. Go check them out. Thanks, Sellerboard. Hey, we'll have another great episode for you very soon.